Hello, welcome everybody to episode 25 of the Content Lab podcast. We are joined by the fan favorite, Carly Creative, Carly Johnson. Carly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's always
Good.
good when I'm talking to other
Wow.
creators, you know. So today we're gonna talk about a couple of different topics that we had in mind, such as failure, your personal experience with um, getting your dream job and then realizing that it might not be for you, just staying connected, belonging, and versus fitting in, and a couple of different topics, pretty much stuff that we all go through at some point in our life. So we figured it was gonna be a good idea to talk about this um, to other people and hopefully um, have them learn something new or just you know us just sharing our experiences.
Yeah,
Carly, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
All
Yeah,
right,
obviously I've gone through a lot of changes in the last few months, but I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, tell us about those changes. Obviously, we just touched about the fact that you got your dream job last year, right?
Yeah, about a
But
year and a half ago is when I started with Proven. So,
yeah, so tell us about the whole experience of you getting the job and then what it led to a year after working.
yeah, I think this topic is really interesting because I think a lot of us go through something similar of like working really hard to get something that we really want. Um, whether that's like a job or a relationship or something like that, only to find out like maybe it's not actually what we thought we wanted. And so I've been going through that a lot lately. And I think what's interesting is like um, either you can be brave and like go out on a journey of finding the answer of what you actually really want and what really aligns with you, or you can stay in a lot of security in where you are and what's familiar, and you can stay there. And I think what I'm realizing lately is like the brave thing to do, like the thing that aligns most with me is like to put myself out there and to go it by myself. So yeah, that's kind of like the gist of what I've been going through. But yeah.
Yeah. So what I kind of like feel is that it's nothing like against the actual job of like you getting the job because it's something that you always enjoyed and
Yeah.
you felt like good at doing it, but it's kind of like you wanted to do more, right? Like just
Yeah.
expand more. Um you're like a very creative person. It's like, if you only are in like a box, hey, you only have to do this. It's something that
Yeah.
you're like, oh, like I want more than that.
Totally. Um, I think I think it's a topic that not a lot of creators talk about, honestly, because it's pretty vulnerable. But yeah, like especially like within the CrossFit media space, I feel like a lot of us do put ourselves in these boxes of you have to be, solely dedicated to CrossFit media, or you have to focus on something to have a niche. And like I agree, I think to be the very best at something, you have to dedicate everything to something, of course, but I think even Michael Dalton posted a video not too long ago about how you're not just one thing. And that really spoke to me because it's so true. Like, as much as you want to focus and dedicate yourself to one thing, you can't deny the fact that, like, you're also a sibling or a brother or an artist or a mom, or like you have all these parts about you that you can choose to not act on. Um, and like arguably for a very long time, I really tried to push a lot of stuff away in order to keep Proven the front and center of my life. And I think, um, like I didn't really want to for a long time do other things because it was my dream. And I didn't have an interest in seeking anything outside of it because I wanted to be fully dedicated towards something and I wanted that. And then I kind of after a while realized, holy shit, like I'm so much more than just CrossFit. I have a lot of ideas outside of CrossFit. Um, And those are things that I couldn't really act on in the position I was in with Proven, just because I was very dedicated to one specific role and making sure that that functioned as well as it could. And again, it's nothing about the job at all or the people or anything like that. It's totally a growth journey of my own of realizing, dang, like I'm a lot more than just CrossFit. And it's scary to think that way because when people start to recognize your work as just being one thing, like you obviously get a lot of validation from that. Like, um, the more, I guess, like the more driven you are into a certain position, the more people expect that from you. And so when you take a step back and you're like, oh, I'm actually really interested in all these other things, people are like, what do you mean? Like, I thought this was your dream. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's pretty interesting. It's cool to like have your perspective because obviously working for Proven is something like if you think about it, there's probably, thousands of people that would love to be in the same spot that you were at. And obviously it's something that you wanted to do and you really enjoy it, but
Yeah.
um, it's kind of scary to think like once you're there, like once you achieve what you wanted to do, you're like, I want something different or I want more. And the way I think about it too is like famous people always say like everybody wants to be famous until you're famous.
Yeah.
Because it's once you're actually in that position, you realize like, oh, this might not be what I wanted to do or
Oh,
to be, right?
yeah. And there's so much human in that, you know, like I think there's such a like, especially in America, I feel like there's such a heavy weight that's attached to your career. Is like growing up, my parents are very high achieving people. Like my mom's a doctor, my dad's a like a CEO of a company in Minnesota, and like they grind and are so independent and work so hard. And so like from an early age, I was like, wow, my worth is attached to my career. Like my success determines who I am. And it's a pretty dangerous line to walk when you attach your self-worth to your career. And it's one that like until I started therapy, I was like, holy crap, like I've done this my whole life. And yeah, it's definitely a lot to unpack, I think. Especially with Proven. Like I obsessed over it so much. When I moved to Nashville, I essentially did nothing but work. Part of that is I was around people that are at the top of their field. They're dedicating everything in their life to being the best in the world. And that type of culture really drives you and motivates you to like level up and to work as hard as you can. And I think that's amazing. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of awesome in that for sure. But I think when I took a step back and I was like thinking about who Carly is, I was like, I don't think I'm one thing. Like, I don't think I would feel fulfilled if I only did this one thing for the rest of my life. And that was a really scary thought because I used to want that. And there's a lot of fear of change in that. Like, there's so much fear of rejection, of people thinking that, you know, you're changing and you're less important or you're not as creative or whatever. And yeah, I I finally am getting to the spot of being more open about talking about that because I don't think really people do. I think you kind of just go with the flow for most of it and you avoid a lot of feelings of how you feel until you're forced to look at it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you see it in professional sports too, how people like that are, very dominant in one sport, like they're the best at that sport. And then they try to look for different things and everybody's like, what are you doing? You're the best. I know, for example, I was like, I was reading one of the posts from Steffi Cohen. I think she posted either this morning or yesterday.
Yeah.
And she was literally just talking about what you're talking. Let me see if I can find it. But it's pretty
Oh,
interesting
cool.
how she's like, like she was the best at powerlifting, right? Like breaking all the
Mhm.
records, but it's just something that she doesn't. Well, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you while I'm looking for it. She just doesn't feel like completely fulfilled by just being the best at something. And now she's
Yeah,
like doing the fighting thing, the
totally.
feet going. So yeah, it's a good perspective, right? Like, and you even see it with like Tia, for example. Like, she's the best ever at CrossFit, right? And she
Yeah.
wanted to do. I mean, she went to the Olympics and weightlifting. She was doing bobsled too. It's like, and people are like, "What are you doing? Like, why? If you're the best at this, why would you?"
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I think that's so interesting. Like when you surround yourself with growth-minded people,
mhm,
it's like you can't tap them when they're growing, you
yeah.
know? Like
Can you see that? It says, fighting fear is a lifetime project for me. Nothing I've done tests my resilience like boxing has. It would be easy to call it quits and shelter myself in a sport I'm good at and with a community that I know that knows me. But
yeah.
you don't grow unless you're under pressure, unless you're challenged. Take the hard path, take a risk, challenge yourself. It's much more rewarding.
Oh, so true.
And that kind of like goes with what you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Oh, 100%. I think like growth is especially scary. I kind of wrote about this in my post when I posted about me taking a step back, but like growth is especially scary because it feels like you're losing a lot, but you're also gaining a lot. Like for me, I was like, wow, like I love what I do. Like it's not that. I do love what I do. I love the position that I'm in. I love being able to connect with people in the sport. Like I love all of it. Um, but again, like I kept coming back to this thought of like, is this all I'm meant for? Like, it can I do more?
Yeah.
And I think when again, like Tia is incredibly growth minded. Like Tia doesn't stop when she's faced with challenge. Like she went and tried, you know, she was an Olympian and she is like tried bobsled and all of that. And I think that just shows that like being around people that are that growth minded, like you're called to do the same thing. And I have to be growth minded in order to be me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you were mentioning that there is a lot of fear, right, behind
Oh,
making decisions like this. And I remember you talking about it, like you were scared that people see it more as like a failure, like, oh, why is
yeah.
she stepping back? You know, it might be, I don't know, like she failed right at her job, and you were like very scared, and then you were very like touched by like people reaching out to you and like the comments and stuff like that, like, oh, you know, like, good for you, you know, it's always good, like, if something doesn't make you completely happy, or just like maybe it made you happy but you wanted something different. If you
Yeah.
can talk about that, like the response of like the people whenever you posted that you
Yeah,
were stepping.
totally. I mean, um, for me, like I have my entire life looked at failure as doing something and then literally failing at it. But like I started looking at it as if I'm not even trying something else, like if I'm not even trying, then I already capped myself, I already failed. So like that's a little bit different of what I've started to realize. And um I think it the actual idea of failing for me stems from tying my worth to my career. You know, like if I have a fantastic day of shooting, editing, producing, whatever at the games, I feel really good. Um, versus if I were to, you know, if my SD card were to corrupt or like I were to miss a ton of shots, like I felt like my worth would be like down the drain. And like so naturally, like I was like, "Oh wow. That just shows how much of my own self-worth is tied up into what I produce, what I create." Um and it's a dangerous one because it basically tells you that like if you're not performing really well all the time, then you're not enough. And if you're not doing of what everyone expects of you, then you're not enough.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
you mentioned that on the post, you said, for the first time in a very long time I'm listening to what Carly wants and
yeah,
not what everyone else wants.
yeah. And like it's taken me a lot of time and therapy honestly to realize that it's a really unhealthy way to live, to only attach like your self-worth to what you can do. And like yeah, like I there's so much fear in that. Like again, like you're losing stuff and you're gaining stuff at the same time. So while I'm losing a job that there's a lot of parts of it that were very fulfilling to me and working with people that I love and all of that, I'm also gaining a lot of freedom and curiosity and creativity and just expansion, I feel like. And I think the biggest thing that made me realize how much I was scared of failure, like, was when I looked at my own Instagram feed after the games. And this is a really interesting conversation, but when after the games, I took a trip back to Minnesota to spend some time with my family. And I was up at my cabin and I was sitting on the dock and I was on Instagram and I looked at my feed and I literally like got emotional just looking at my feed because I was like, damn, like it looks like I have it all together. Like I looked at my feed and I was like, the colors are great, everything flows. It looks like I have it all together. I look great on this. And what I realized was it wasn't a good representation of how I was actually feeling. Like all of those moments were real. Like it's not like I faked the moments, but I wasn't showing the other side of how I was also doing and I was burnt out. Like I was feeling confused. I was struggling a lot after the games because like I was so focused. I think when you're in a creative role that demands you to be so dialed in for the whole year and then it's done, it's like wow, it's a big rush of emotion. And I think that moment, like when I was chilling at my cabin with my family and whatever, I was like, shit, like I kind of fucked up. Like I'm using Instagram and I have been using Instagram to show all my highlights and to show the awesome shots that I have and to show all the good things. And like while those are great, it makes me feel like I can't fully talk about other hard things. And I think as a storyteller, if you can only talk about the good things, you fail. Like that's not reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
Like
I
I
guess
completely get it, and
yeah,
most people we look up to if we see their Instagram, it just everything looks perfect, right? That's why we're
yeah.
always so
At
like,
least that's what I used to like
yeah.
think about. Yeah.
I mean, but in reality, like as you said, like most people use Instagram to just show your highlights, right? So it's
100.
just tough. It's just tough to like sit back and like if you're going through a tough moment and be like, oh, I'm like kind of sad, like I'm not feeling motivated, like my shots are not where I want them to be, and then you're looking at everybody else's Instagram. It's like everything just looks so perfect, right? But
So
it's
true.
because like everybody's not sharing exactly how they feel.
Yeah.
Which I mean, at some point I get it because our people are very like they don't like to express too many emotions, right? So
Yeah.
that's fine. But as you said, like if you're willing to be vulnerable with like the way you're feeling, it's important to show that too, especially if somebody that you're in a spot that people are looking up to you, because a lot
Yeah.
of people can feel connected to that spot in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's another of the reasons why a lot of people look up to you. It's because you're pretty open about your feelings and people really feel that connection. They're like, okay, I'm not the only one that, is doing really cool things, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're a human being, like at the end of the day, it's like social media is so like I have a love-hate relationship with it, I always say, because like I love being able to share the really good things, of course. But I actually hate the side of social media that makes you feel like you have to be a certain way to fit in.
Mm.
And like I think that's such a disservice because people like and this is something I think about all the time, like being a creator, you get so good at curating your life. Like the best people to curate lives are creators. You can literally make your life look perfect on social media. I can do that. Like I can make me look flawless, no issues, no feel like just I can make it look amazing. but like if I actually check in with myself, I'm like, that's not real. Like I have days where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like like I don't feel motivated. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy of stuff. And I think what's really interesting is like people are so uncomfortable with seeing reality because people go onto social media for a hit of happiness. You know, you go on there to get likes and comments and to feel better and to feel motivated, but like people use social media to feel better and to feel good. And it's like what's interesting is like if you take a step back from all of that, social media is just an app for connection. You're literally connecting with people and liking people and commenting and creating connections with people. But if you're only showing the very good parts about your life, then you're only connecting about part of your life. And that's what kills me
Yeah.
because the parts of my life that I need the most connection on are the parts that I'm struggling. And like I need people to be like, "Oh, I feel that too." Like, dang. And but that's not what people talk about. And people
Yeah.
don't want to because they think it's weak or it's scary or whatever, and it's actually the most brave thing to be who you are because nobody does it. And yeah.
No, I agree. Jeannie says, I admire that Carly recognizes so much self awareness and mental health for someone younger. Many people take years and a variety of shifts in life to come to that level of self discovery.
Of
Philip
course.
says, Carly, you have gained that self awareness about it by yourself. Or, oh, I guess it's a question. Have you gained that self awareness about it by yourself or had someone thanks to whom you started realizing it all?
Oh my gosh. I wish I could say it was all by myself. No, I mean, um, I used to, completely honest, think about therapy as like you only go to therapy if you're broken. That's how my parents viewed it. Um, I actually like thought I was really self-aware from an early age, like just having conversations with people. I realized this year I wasn't. Like I really struggled with sharing like deeper parts of myself to other people. And so, yeah, my therapist Jordan is 100% the reason why like I'm gaining confidence and courage and like sharing those parts of myself. And at the end of the day, like therapy to me is a place where you can be a human being. Like you can show up and talk and you can be yourself and you can feel safe. And I think unfortunately has a negative stigma for a lot of people, including my parents who are now in therapy. Um, but at the end of the day, like you're a human being, you deserve to talk and have conversations and be yourself. And like it's scary to do that because you're scared of rejection. But it to not do it is actually to not be yourself, like to not do something or talk about something out of fear is actually the not brave thing to do. So it's kind of counterintuitive. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
therapy.
And if anybody else that's listening have any questions for Carly, just drop it on the chat and she will answer all of them.
Yeah, and Carlos, I kind of wanted to ask
No,
you
no,
something.
this is about you. We're,
No,
we're not
like
talking about
as,
me.
as no, but as we're talking about like Instagram versus reality,
Yeah.
like do you feel like the people in our space or yourself too, do you feel like you've gotten better about like making your Instagram reflect more of your reality, or do you think like a lot of people in our space and like you, me, like other people included have a really hard time doing that, and like why?
Yeah. No, definitely I feel like and also it also goes back to like people like you and other people like sharing more their stuff, like their actual feelings and stuff. It kind of like helps me like, like it's okay, right? Like to do this stuff. Like if you look at my Instagram, I guess like people have been following me for 2 years, for example. Like
Yeah.
2 years ago, I didn't even have photos of myself or like I had my logo on my profile picture
Mhm.
because I just didn't like showing like myself that much.
Yeah.
I treated more, it was more like a brand than like myself, right?
Yep.
um and then like with my captions, same thing. Like my captions have always been very like the athlete's name and shot for X brand.
Mhm.
um but wait, Carlos. CJ says, Carlos, you can open up too. uh,
Is
I mean, it
Papa
just
like Papa?
no, that's just like him saying like brother in like
Oh,
Miami. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So what were we? We're talking about. Oh yeah, my Instagram. And yeah, like
Mhm,
people like you and like or people just opening up about their feelings is kind of like it helps you like realize like oh it's okay to be vulnerable on social media. And I mean if you see my stuff lately, it's been completely different than it used to be in the past.
mhm.
Um and yeah, just like Instagram again, like I used to use Instagram as an app to like, it's cool to get like likes and followers and
Yeah,
sometimes posting stuff that I'm like, this might not like I don't really feel like it's that cool, but I know it's gonna get a lot of likes, right? Now I
mm,
just post stuff that I enjoy
yeah,
and it feels good, honestly. Like I don't care about the
yeah,
followers and stuff. And a lot of people are taking that approach now because they're just realizing how like consumed everybody or how consumed we can be by social media.
yeah, and I think with that, again, because so few people actually share how they are and how they're doing, it makes you feel like you can't, or it makes you feel like, oh, you're weak if you do that,
Mhm,
or you're different, or you're soft, or something. Um, by people just choosing to not share, you're just like perpetuating a culture of thinking it's okay to not be yourself or to not check in or to, and what's really funny is when I've started to like open up about my feelings on social media, the amount of connection I've gotten from that of just being honest, um, which is brave, not weak.
mhm.
Um, like is
And
insane.
people are still like afraid to like talk about it. Like they usually just DM you because they're probably afraid to like,
Oh my gosh.
let everybody know like, hey, I'm going through something similar, right?
100%. And um, my my biggest, like, if you're scared of, if you're not posting something out of fear, like Jordan, my therapist, always says, like, that's not a good enough reason to do, like, to not do something. Like, I sent you this quote a while ago. I was like, don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Mhm,
And like that's huge to me of like, if you're not going to do something out of fear, then how is that like the brave thing? Like everyone's scared to like be vulnerable or like to talk about things that's going on in their lives. But like the brave thing then is to not share. Like I don't think so. And like um I actually, after the games, I did a lot of reflecting on like why I do this work. Like I was like, what were my, I looked through, Shane asked me like what were my favorite photos from the games. Like he wanted me to send them to him as like a way to kind of reflect on like my work. And I sent them to him. And what's interesting is like the photos that I sent him weren't about CrossFit. Like they weren't about like the most perfect shot of like, you know, perfectly framed or whatever. That's not what I liked about it. The shots that I loved the most were the ones where I could feel something, like Brooke with her arms up in the air of like getting fifth, or Tia hugging her family who for a long time couldn't make it over for the games, but they were all there. And Shane tearing up at the finish line when Tia crosses the line. Like that means something. Like, and that means the most to the athlete too, of like that support and that love. And when I took a step back, I was like, that's what I like. Like that connection is what I like. I could like at the end of the day, like CrossFit is great. I could care less about getting the perfect shot of burpees and thrusters. I care a hell of a lot about getting the connection. And that like reignited like my passion for storytelling in general, because I realized that like why I actually do this is 100% because of the transparent storytelling of emotion and connection and why you do it.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Is there anybody, I mean, obviously not specifically in the CrossFit industry, but is there anybody just in the, content creator creative world that you like look up to, that it's pretty open about like their feelings and storytelling and stuff?
Um, I think people are starting to get more open about that. Um, Off the top of my head, I think like Mariah has opened up a little bit about, just like backlash that she's gotten for certain things or whatever. And like in moments people are vulnerable with their work. But to be honest with you, most of the people I follow in the fitness industry aren't that open about it. They're not like, and I think that's a funny correlation to fitness too. Like, fitness is such like an avoidant culture of your feelings. Like, I know I go to the gym and I lift and I don't want to think about my feelings. Like, I just go there and I want to work out. So it's kind of like a culture of you just push that aside and you work and you grind, and that's okay. Like, that's okay sometimes. But for me, I care too much about the connection to my work to just avoid all of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I wish
Um,
there was I mean, it'll be impossible to make it happen, but I'm saying like if every content creator can actually like have like a moment to either show like your old work or like share like like the failures that you had, like to get to that point. Because as we were talking earlier, like your Instagram or your YouTube or whatever social media you're using, it's just gonna show like your very very quality stuff that you like, right?
yeah,
But the road to get there, like, I mean, I can just like on top of my head, I just remember like so many like n- not good photos or videos, and like me thinking like, oh gosh, like, I'm never gonna make it to the point that, I'm gonna be at that place. It's just kind of like
yeah,
it we I mean, obviously we go through so much work and progress and all the stuff that it's hard to share that at that point. And then once we are, to the point that we're like happy to share our work, it's just, like all that content is nobody's ever gonna see it,
mhm,
right? So everybody instantly thinks like they see, I don't know, Peter McKinnon or somebody to that level. I mean, I'm just saying Peter McKinnon because everybody knows who he is, but we can
mhm.
get more specific about, people's work. They see the stuff they produce and they're like, oh my God, they're just
They're
they
perfect.
were yeah, they're perfect. They were born to do this. Like they're so talented, right? But
Mhm.
in reality, like people tell me all the time, like, "Oh my God, dude, you're so talented. Like, I love this and that." And in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, thank you." But I'm thinking, I'm like, I actually do not think I'm that talented.
Yeah,
I do not think I'm that creative either.
mhm.
That's just what I think. And you tell me sometimes like, "Oh, you're so creative," and in my mind, I'm like, I honestly don't think I'm as creative. Like I see stuff from other creators and I'm like, that's super creative. I just think I work hard, which is different. I work hard and I made myself to the point that I learn, like I get obsessed by learning new things and new skills. And I
Yeah,
guess that can transfer into me being a little more creative. But when it
yeah,
comes to like pure creativity, I don't think I'm as creative as other people.
yeah, and I
That's
think
just what I think.
and I
And
think you okay, yeah.
okay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I think you saying like, "Oh, I don't think I'm that good," or whatever.
Well, I'm pretty positive I'm not as creative as because I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just the way I see myself
yeah,
compared
I
to
mean,
like
I think
you, Eric, and other people that creativity is like
but
your
I
thing.
but I think that's because you're attaching, like, your worth to some distant dream, like, without realizing how good you are right now. And that's what I did for the longest time, like, "Oh, because I'm not XYZ or because I didn't get these shots, I'm not good enough." Like, that's not it, like, you're good right now. And, like, just because your work doesn't look like somebody else doesn't mean you're not worthy enough or you're not good enough or you're not creative enough. Like, I have confidence in my work, like, I know that my work is good, but I'm not a better, like, human, I'm not a better artist because I can click buttons.
Yeah,
Like, hell no, you
yeah.
know? Um,
I guess my point, what I was trying to say, is that most of my skills and my creativity comes from actually working hard and not being somebody that was born. to do this.
Oh yeah.
So looking back on my work, like it's something that I just don't have it anywhere that people can see it. But it was, I mean, obviously it was trash at some point.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be cool to have at some point, like, share our stuff that in the past, so people can be like, oh yeah, like I can definitely, there's a lot of growth ahead of me. And
Yeah.
let's read this comment real quick
You
that I
should
have on
share
the
that.
screen.
You
Yeah.
know, like I just did a post not too long ago of my friend Clayton of his his beginning of before he started bodybuilding and now. And he hadn't even really looked at how like much he has changed personally until he saw that post.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is you literally forget how much you've grown in your life until you take a step back and look at it. And what's really easy, I think, is to only post the good things, only post the good photos, to appear perfect, to appear that you're so creative and all of that. And like, yeah, like all of that's true. Like, I'm not gonna ever take that from somebody because I've done that for a long time. But I think what's equally as cool is if you can connect with people by saying like, look, I haven't been here forever, like I'm not this good just because like I have failed so many times.
Mhm.
And that's the story, like that's what connects you with other people, is to like have a common bond off of, you know being common.
Sure.
Like, you know
Yeah.
um
No, I agree. Morgan says, "You have no idea how much I appreciate this, Carly. It's so admirable to see how open you are."
aw, that's so kind. Yeah, well, I'm glad.
Danny says, "Carly, you're a great motivator, my friend, and your journey is inspiring. Respect to you. Very well said. Addressing fear factor in life brings best in everyone."
Yeah,
Do you know who's Danny?
I don't know his last name.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think I know who
sometimes
he is. I think he follows me. We DM sometimes, but
sometimes people comment with just the initials. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but thank you.
I know.
Like,
What's your
that's
last
a good
name?
comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack says, I think it was the last day of the games, and you, talking to you, Carly, told
Mhm.
me always invoke emotion, and now every time I pick up a camera, I say those exact words. It's no longer about the hype, but the emotion.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, because and
And
it
it's sad to say I wasn't intentional about that prior to then.
yeah, fuck, me too. I wasn't either. Like, for the longest time, I was like, "I just want the coolest shots, like, I just wanna get this, whatever." And then I realized, "Dang, like, why am I doing this? It's for the feeling." That's what storytelling is, so
Yeah. Butterflies can see their wings, they can see how truly beautiful they are, but everyone else can. People are like that as well. Good quote.
I like that. That's cool. It's very true.
Thanks for sharing that, Jonathan.
Mhm.
And as you're saying, like that's when you show you like the true emotions, right? Like the storytelling part of it, and that's when people connect more with your work, and that's when you feel better about your work, and that's when your work actually like can like inspire, like say like just one photo can tell so much about what's happening. And
100%.
I was talking about this in the last episode with Christian Christian Flores,
Yeah,
and I was telling him how just one photo can say so much more than a 15 to 30-second video, which is
for
crazy
sure.
to think, right? Because you have 15 to 30 seconds to like tell a story, but one photo can tell you just so much more.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree
And
so much.
that's a cool thing about photography to, like, in one frozen moment in life, show so many things and so many emotions that can be happening at that moment.
Yeah. My dad, who's so creative, like way more creative than me, always would say like, because I would show him a series of photos, like when I was younger and I was learning photography, and he'd be like, "Great, try doing that in one." And I was like, "Damn, like that's so true." Like to show so much in one photo is like a feat. It's hard to do. And also, I've thought about this a lot. Like if I could have just shut off all my feelings and stayed at proven and not actually like tap into a lot of feelings that I was having and whatever, I would be shutting off all the connection I have to my work. And that's why I got into this in the first place. So I wouldn't have been authentic at all. And I think like the more somebody's connected to their work, like I was very connected to, and I still am, to Tia and Shane, and like I I'm connected to their story. I'm connected to who they are as people, not even CrossFitters. I think that's where the storytelling is. And as soon as you stop connecting to what you're doing, it feels really distant. It doesn't feel real anymore. It doesn't feel like it's yours. It just feels like you're there to just curate.
Mhm.
And so, as much as like I loved what I was doing, it's so important for me to be really connected to what work I'm doing. And that requires a lot of transparency, and like it requires a lot of checking in with yourself about if this like feels right. And yeah, you have to acknowledge like the truth of how you feel a lot, and that's what clarity is. So
So what's your, after you made the decision to step, to leave Proven, what was your like first like thought, like what's next for you when it, like what was your process after that? I don't even know how to word it, just kind of like, what do you do? Like you sit down, you start like writing ideas.
yeah, I mean, what do I do? Like I've been journaling a lot about what I want to do, what feels right for me. Um, what I actually am excited, like what I'm really excited about pursuing. I think a lot of that is getting back to what I want to do. I think I was in a spot for a long time where I shut a lot of other stuff down because I was so focused on the performance of Proven. Um, so to me, like it's combining a lot of things that I really love and capturing that. So like that can include travel and nature and elopements. That can include bodybuilding and CrossFit. That can include. Um, I'm really interested in architecture. My dad is an insane builder. Like I have a dream of building an A-frame sometime in the future. So like it's being creative and being okay with that and finding out what I really love to do again. Um, and yeah, I think something that I was talking to my mom about is, and this like parallels relationally too, like with relationships. I've noticed like if you're with the wrong person, but you're getting married, people think you're somehow moving forward because that's what the natural progression is of what you're doing. And like people also think that in your career, like if you're moving up on the ladder, like if you're moving up at a corporate company or you're moving forward with a company, that you're crushing it and you're successful, but you're actually moving backwards if you can't sustain it for a long term and you're not actually fulfilled. And so while I feel like there's a part of me that's somehow failing for taking a step back of what a lot of people expect of me, um, I'm taking a lot of steps forward in realizing what I can sustain and what I care about and what I want to do. And that's terrifying as hell. Like, that's just that. But it's so true. Oh, I can't hear you, Carlos.
My bad, I had it muted. Can you hear me now?
Hmm.
Okay. Jonathan says, when I left my 15-year career in the military, I went through an identity crisis. Sometimes still am. Do you have a similar feeling?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think anybody that dedicates a hell of a lot of time to anything and you take a step back from it, it's a complete identity crisis. But I think that also is just information for me. Like, look what happened when I dedicated everything and gave up a lot of everything to do one thing. And it made me really reflect on, like, oh, I think I want to do more than just one thing. Like, I want to be more than just one thing. And also, I don't have an interest in being the very best at one thing. Like I know what I would have to give up to stay in something to just be the very best at something, and I don't want that. Like I want to be great and passionate about a lot of different things, and that's just the truth. Like, and that's also something not a lot of people get. I think you get a lot of praise for like seeking to be the best at something, and like I respect it so much because I can't do it. Like I could push myself through that and do it, but I realized that like I would have to give up so many parts of me in order to keep that, and I don't want to do
Yeah. Can you hear me right now?
it. Mhm.
Okay, my mic got unplugged for a second. I was
Mhm.
like, oh no. Um, and this is a tough question because obviously, like, you haven't thought about it. But in a perfect world, in a year from now, where do you see Carly Creative?
Um, in a perfect world, that's not perfect.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's a tough question.
Um,
Like best case scenario in a year from today, so September 2023, where do you see Carly Creative?
I think working with a variety of different people, um, photographing and creating and telling stories about a variety of different things, whether that's in CrossFit, bodybuilding, um, elopements, whatever, travel. I think what I'm seeking more now is allowing myself to grow outside of just one thing. And I have every intention of just like expanding as much as I can. Um, I'm really working on, again, not attaching like my worth to what I can produce or create. So, like, ideally, hanging around people that feel the same way of like, look, I just want to make stuff that feels right to me, and I want to be honest about it, and I want my Instagram to reflect what's going on and not what I think a perfect moment should be. Um, and all of those things are so different than what I used to want. Like I used to want to look perfect on social media, and arguably my social media still looks pretty freaking perfect, which isn't the goal. Uh, but yeah, I think getting back to why I'm doing this is good enough for me. Um, I don't need to be like the perfect thing to
Mm.
feel better.
Yeah. Do you have any plans to keep doing some designing as well?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually really interested in like for a long time as like a creative outlet, I made a lot of stickers and whatever. I'm interested in doing some like apparel type stuff. Not that I would like sell it, but just like for myself to see like if I can do it. Oh shit. I was hoping
Okay.
somebody wouldn't like quote me
Yeah.
on.
My social media still looks pretty perfect.
Oh shit.
Carly
That's not what
Johnson
I meant.
2022.
Okay, we're
I take the best photos of my social media. It looks perfect.
oh no.
No,
Now
I know what you meant. Like it looks like you're going through like a perfect stage in your life and it's like oh beautiful.
yeah. Well,
Until you actually like read through it and you're like,
yeah,
okay, yeah,
if
she's
you
going through
actually
some
read it
changes.
if you read it, cheers, because that's where my writing comes in. But yeah, I think like the last thing that is important for me to talk about at least is like the idea of fitting in versus belonging. We kind of talked about that a little bit. Um, and this idea is so interesting to me because I could fit in at Proven very well. Like there are a lot of parts of me that worked very well there. And I can show people certain cards that I have of my ability or who I am, and it works. And I think I'm like that in a lot of different areas. Like, there's a lot of parts about me that are likable. But like actually belonging somewhere, like being able to be really transparent with people about how I'm doing, like being really honest on social media about the good stories and the hard stories. Um, that's like so much of who I am. And so while I could fit in a lot of different areas, it's a lot more important to me to like belong and like to be fully myself and to like have conversations that are actually real. And yeah, like I'm stoked to like essentially belong
Yeah.
to like me, and not only have to have one thing so focused on CrossFit. Um, and yeah, that's just like a very honest, truthful thing.
Hmm. Yeah. There's a good reminder for all content creators that we're also people and we can share stuff, right? Like, and again, it's not for everybody. I'm not somebody that shares too much stuff in my life, but I know it's
Why?
important. I know it's important to, to, yeah, obviously to share your stuff and know, like, know that some people might be looking up to you and being like, vulnerable about failures and stuff that you're going through can also help other people, which
Mhm.
is cool. And I mean, that's another part of the reason why this podcast exists, is because it's a good opportunity for people like you, like other content creators. I mean, I've had probably about 20. We're 25 episodes in, so about 20 creators talk
Yeah.
about like their life more than anything, right? Like their journey. I didn't want to make it like like what camera do you use, stuff like that. I wanted to make it more of a, let's see what these people went through to get where they are, what's their
Yeah.
journey like, what are their fears, what are some of their failures and stuff like that. So that's the main idea of this podcast, right? And I know people really connect with it because they send me messages about it, like, hey. And honestly, every time they send me a message about something that they learn, it's not like, oh yeah, this person's using this preset or this, the way they're editing. It's usually when it comes, when it's linked to an emotion or linked to something that, um I don't even know how to explain it. Something that everybody goes through in life. That's usually what people like get the most out of it, right?
Mhm. I think people connect with it because it's real.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like as much as I could like sit on this podcast and share like how great everything is and like not talk about harder things, like I think a lot of really meaningful conversations come from talking about harder stuff. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I definitely like to you, Carlos, like I tell you this all the time. I encourage you a lot to share more of you and your journey. I think you do a really good job about highlighting a ton of different people. And I think you're equally as worthy of talking about your own journey. And that's important.
Yeah.
I think,
I I appreciate that and I agree. All right. If anybody that's listening to this wants to talk to Carly and they want to like share their feelings with you and they want to, just, have a talk, what's the best method for them to reach out?
yeah, just DM me is easy. I am on social media a lot more than I'd like to say. So,
Yeah. So her Instagram handle is Art Carly Creative,
mhm.
creative with a K, just as like her name.
Yep.
Carly, anything else you want to add to this
Uh,
talk?
no.
Are you sure? To everybody listening, come on, you gotta finish with a banger.
Oh, ow! I just hit my hand. Um, I guess I hope if anyone is listening still to this, that you find confidence in showing up as the realist version of yourself. And I hope that people start to share that because the more people share what's true to them, the more it invites other people to do the same. And um, I think the world would look a lot better if people could just be honest, you know. And you can be honest about the best things in your life, and just like you can be honest about things you're struggling with. And I'm always down for a conversation about um, reality and like how hard it is to like be a certain way or to be a creator or whatever. And I'm also down to have like awesome conversations that are really positive and like how much we love it and how awesome it is. Like I think both are true, and I hope people can start talking about stuff that means a lot to them and that's truthful. So
There you goes. I love this. Yeah, I'm sure this episode is gonna it's gonna help a lot of people, and hopefully they reach out to you. So if you're listening to this and you really feel some sort of connection with what we talked about, just make sure you send us a DM Carly and tell them that you listened to it and you liked it, because obviously it just helps her specifically to be like, okay, the things that I'm saying can help people, right? And
yeah,
that's a very rewarding moment.
yeah, and everyone encouraged Carlos to do the same.
No, you're the star of the show, Carly. It's all about you. No, but for real, if you like the episode, please send us a DM. Let us know. Post on your story if you want to share with people. Do it. I obviously always appreciate all kinds of support, which is it's awesome that we see so many people in the chat and people like sending us stuff, because it kind of like blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, it just started as something like kind of fun, like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna talk to some people I look up to, and then when somebody's like, oh my god, like this really helped me, it's kind of mind blowing. It feels good. So if you like the episode, share with your friends. Let us know. Um, like the YouTube video and subscribe to the channel. That also helps a lot. Carly, thank you so much for not only being on the show but also like opening up about your feelings. And I know it's not necessarily super easy to do in
Yeah,
front of people and the internet, but I'm sure a lot of people really appreciate it.
cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I think I'm planning on an episode on Tuesdays. Today's Sunday, so a couple of days. So let's see if we make it happen. Carly, again, thank you so much, and hope to have you again on the show soon.
cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.